Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side, your Sleep Number setting. And now it's our lowest price of the season on our top-selling i8 smart bed. Your best savings, plus free home delivery with an adjustable base. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Learn more at sleepnumber.com.
Welcome to Think About It with your host, Jaden Miller.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me on my podcast, Think About It with Jaden Miller. I'm your host, Jaden Miller. Again, I appreciate you guys for listening and liking and sharing and subscribing on my YouTube channel. And of course, listening to me on your favorite podcast platform. Today we're going to talk about bullying. What is bullying? Bullying is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Not so much that I was bullied as a kid or that I did any bullying, but I've always been one of those kinds of people that, root for the underdog. I hate to see people mistreated in such a way, and I know the negative effects that bullying can have on the victim as well as on the offender. And so as a school official, one of the things that I have to do quite often is I have to investigate situations that include bullying. And it really is a serious thing. And teachers and school administrators, parents should really take this issue very seriously. All right. So again, thank you for joining me. I drop new episodes every Sunday and Wednesday. And again, I appreciate you guys for liking and sharing and subscribing on my YouTube channel and for liking and following and commenting on my podcast. All right. So what is bullying? Bullying is unwanted, aggressive behavior among school-aged children that involves a real or perceived power imbalance. The behavior is repeated or has the potential to be repeated over time. Both kids who are bullied and who bully others may have serious lasting problems. You'll see in my podcast today that, I'm not going to be talking just about those that are being bullied. I'm also going to address those that do some bullying because, even though they're not victims in the bullying situation, okay, but they could possibly be victims in other situations that may cause them to bully. So, today you may be offender, but yesterday you may have been a victim, all right? So in order to be considered bullying, the behavior must be aggressive and include these two things, all right? An imbalance of power. Kids who bully use their power, such as physical strength, access to embarrassing information, or popularity to control or harm others. Power imbalances can change over time and in different situations, even if they involve the same people. And then secondly, repetition. Bullying behaviors happen more than once or have the potential to happen more than once. So quite often, parents think that bullying is if someone calls your child a name or if one kid hits another kid. That's not bullying, okay? That might be harassment, or something like that. But harassment is not bullying. Harassment may happen once, okay? Harassment may happen once every 6 months. But bullying is a repeated thing, okay? And it's repeated or repetition. The repetitious behavior that is associated with bullying happens more than once, happens quite frequently, all right? So bullying includes actions such as making threats. That's bullying, okay? Spreading rumors, attacking someone physically or verbally, and excluding someone from a group on purpose. All right. So these are the types of things that happen at schools around the country quite often. All right. So now that we talked about the things that must be considered for bullying, to be defined as bullying, okay, there are three types of bullying. Okay, there's verbal bullying, there's social bullying, and then there's physical bullying. Let's talk about each one of these. All right. There's verbal bullying. Verbal bullying is saying or writing mean things. Verbal bullying includes teasing, name calling, inappropriate sexual comments, taunting, threatening to cause harm. All of these things are types of bullying, verbal bullying, okay? Then we've got social bullying, all right? Social bullying is sometimes referred to as a relational bullying. It involves hurting someone's reputation or relationships, all right? So social bullying includes leaving someone out on purpose. You don't know the tremendous impact that has on kids when you leave them out of something, because quite often kids here, let's look at it this way. What are some reasons why kids go to school? Of course, we know they go to school to be educated, okay? But also parents send their kids to school for socialization skills, all right? Well, here you have someone that is leaving you out on purpose. That makes you feel really, really low, okay? So social bullying is a part of the three types of bullying, all right? Telling other children not to be friends with someone, okay? We've already talked about spreading rumors about someone or embarrassing someone in public, okay? That's social bullying, all right? And then finally, we have physical bullying. This involves hurting a person's body or possessions. Physical bullying includes hitting, kicking, pinching, spitting, tripping or pushing, taking or breaking someone's things, or making mean or rude hand gestures, okay? So those are the types of bullying. And unfortunately, our kids in schools all across the country experience some form of bullying quite often, all right? So where and when bullying happens? Well, bullying can occur during or after school hours. While most reported bullying happens in the school building, a significant percentage also happens in places like on the playground or the bus. I want you to think about this for a second, all right? So we think about bullying happening in a restroom, okay, or in some secluded corner in a gym or something like that. But bullying doesn't always have to happen in school, okay? It can happen on the playground, all right? It can and quite often happens on the bus. You have some bulliers, okay, bullying kids, all right, that have a respect for the classroom and are afraid of getting into trouble, okay, in school. So their bullying may take place in an area where they're out of earshot or out of eyeshot of a teacher or some responsible adult. And so it can happen on a playground or on a bus, all right? It can also happen traveling to or from school, especially if your child walks to school in that kid's neighborhood. Bullying also happens on the internet, all right? So these are all the types of bullying and the places that they can occur, all right? Bullying is something that happens more frequently than people know, all right? So I told you that we're going to look at this not just from the or the perspective of the kid that's being bullied, but also why do some youth bully? Why do they bully? All right. So children and teenagers who feel secure and supported by their family, school, and peers are less likely to bully. Okay, research has been done on this. We find this to be true. However, some youth do not have these types of support. Every individual is unique, and there are many factors that can contribute to bullying behavior. A youth who bullies may experience one, several, or none of the following contributing factors. All right. Peer factors. Some youth bully to attain or maintain social power or to elevate their status in their peer group. I want you to think about that for a minute, all right? So we find this type of activity to happen in gang activities, okay? Here's another one. Some youth bully to show their allegiance to and fit in with their peer group, all right? Here's another: to exclude others from their peer group to show who is and is not part of the group. All right. And then finally, to control the behavior of their peers. This is why some youth bully. All right. These are the peer factors. Let's look at the family factors. All right. Some youth who bully come from families where there is bullying. All right. Aggression or violence at home. Some youth who bully may have parents and caregivers that do not provide emotional support or communication. Some youth who bully may have parents or caregivers who respond in an authoritarian or reactive way. All right. And then some youth who bully may come from families where the adults are overly lenient or where there is low parental involvement in their lives. All right. You know, if you have the opportunity to really talk to a school-aged child, all right, and you ask them a little bit about their home life or ask them about parental involvement in their lives. And I've done this many times. Quite often, you'll hear students say that, well, my parents don't pay enough attention to me. They're always at work. Okay. Or you'll hear some youth say, well, you know, I was bullied at home, and so this is the way that I can take out my anger. All right. So those are some of the things that those that are being bullied those that are bullying will say, all right, to let you know that these are some of the reasons why I do these things, all right? But here are some other factors. There's emotional factors. Some youth who bully may have been bullied in the past or currently, okay, have feelings of insecurity and low self-esteem, so they bully to make themselves feel more powerful. All right. Some youth who bully do not understand others' emotions. All right. So they're wondering why you're hurt or why you're crying or why is that such a big deal? I was just playing. Okay. Some youth who bully don't know how to control their emotions, so they take their feelings out on other people. All right. And some youth who bully may not have skills for handling social situations in healthy, positive ways. All right. Now, let's talk about those school factors. All right. Some youth who bully at school may be in schools where conduct problems and bullying are not properly addressed. We find this in a lot of schools where teachers or administrators tend to let situations go and don't deal with them right away. All right. Then you may have a bullying problem. All right. Some youth who bully at school may experience being excluded, not accepted, or stigmatized at school. All right. Every youth involved in bullying as a target, a bystander, or as one who does the bullying can benefit from adult, school, and community support. That's why it is so important that parents, that teachers, that people that live in a community, when we have bullying problems, we don't sweep it under the rug. We can't say, oh, well, when I was in school 20 or 30 years ago, you know, that was just how things were. Well, it's not 20 or 30 years ago. All right. And children change and people change. All right. Youth who bully may also need support to help them address their behavior. So yes, we're going to talk about those kids that are being bullied, but we also have to look at the kids that are doing the bullying as youth who may need some support to help address how their behavior is impacting those kids that are being bullied. Let's look at it this way. Okay. If we don't do anything about bullying today, all right, those kids that are doing the bullying become adults, right? Okay, so they become the next criminals. They become your boss, okay? And then, you know, you may be experiencing bullying in the workplace, all right? See, it's because we don't deal with these situations when they're kids and we let them fester that they continue to grow. So that's why it's so important, all right, that you work with kids that are involved in bullying, okay? And that even though there are consequences for their bullying, we also need to find ways to help them to stop the bullying, okay? That is so important, all right? So let's talk about who's at risk, all right? Again, you're on my podcast, Think About It with Jaden Miller. I want you to continue to like, share, and subscribe on my YouTube channel. And again, please continue to follow me, listen, comment on your favorite podcast platform. All right, so today we're talking about bullying. All right, we're talking about bullying in schools. All right, and I'm talking about how youth today, if we don't do something about bullying, these kids become the adults, adult bulliers of the future. Now, let me ask you a question. I want you to think about this. All right, think about it with Jaden Miller. I want you to think about it. Have you met adults that you think to yourself, wow, when he was a kid, I bet he was a bully? You've seen them, all right? You've seen them standing in line, okay? Those are the ones that try to butt other people or try to find a way to get to the front of the line, okay? You've seen them at the grocery store. You know, they don't know how to say excuse me. You know, the world revolves around them. They just push past you, okay? You may see them in your workplace, all right? You may see them walking down the street. You may see them and their bullying in their interactions with their children, their spouse, okay? All right, so again, that's why it's so important that we deal with bullies now, all right? We deal with them now. All right. So who is at risk when it comes to bullying? All right. Well, no single factor puts a child at risk of being bullied or bullying others. Bullying can happen anywhere. All right. It can happen in the cities, suburbs. It can happen in rural areas. Depending on the environment, some groups such as lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgender, or questioning, okay, LGBTQ youth with disabilities, and socially isolated youth may be at an increased risk of being bullied. Stigma. I want you to remember that word. Think about it. Stigma. Stigma can also spread false and harmful information that can lead to increasing rates of bullying, harassment, and hate crimes against certain groups of people. All right. Children generally who are bullied have one or more of the following risk factors. All right. They are perceived as different from their peers, such as being overweight or underweight, wearing glasses or different clothing, being new to a school, or being unable to afford what kids consider to be cool. All right. These are kids that are at risk for being bullied. All right. Here's another one. Are perceived as weak or unable to defend themselves. All right. I see that quite often. There are kids that, you know, are a little bigger, you know, than other kids. And they just are just afraid because of what they feel may happen to them. Some other children who are bullied have this risk factor. They are depressed, anxious, or have low self-esteem. All right, if you have low self-esteem, that ties into not having the confidence to defend yourself. All right, quite often bullies, okay, aren't really tough guys. They're not. Okay, they have ways to persuade, ways to get you to feel or to think that they're bigger and tougher than you are. Quite often they're not. Okay, it really is a psychological game that they play. All right, some children that are bullied are less popular than others and have few friends. Okay, and then another one might be that they don't get along well with others. They are seen as annoying or provoking or antagonize others for attention. Even if a child has these risk factors, it doesn't mean that they will be bullied. All right. So let's look at children more likely to bully others. All right. Now I want you to check this out. Think about it. There are two types of kids who are more likely to bully others. All right. Now, some are well connected to their peers, have social power, are overly concerned about their popularity, and like to dominate or be in charge of others. All right. Watch out for those types of kids. All right. Here's another one. Others are more isolated, all right, from their peers and may be depressed or anxious, having low self-esteem, be less involved in school, be easily pressured by peers, or not identify with the emotions or feelings of others. All right, so check this out. Children who have these factors are also more likely to bully others. They are aggressive or easily frustrated, have less parental involvement or having issues at home. They think badly of others. They have difficulty following rules. Now, I want you to remember what I said. These kids today that are bullies turn into adults. You see them all the time, okay? They don't follow rules, okay? The world revolves around them, all right? They don't stop at stop signs. They don't stop at red lights, okay? They could care less who's in line first, okay? Yep. They have they view violence in a positive way. All right. Or they have friends who bully others. All right. Let's go back to that one. View violence in a positive way. All right. Well, let's think about this for a minute. All right. Now, like many of you, I like a good boxing match. Okay. Or I may like a little bit of wrestling. Okay. All right. And then there may be times where, there's someone who we perceive in our minds, got exactly what they deserved because they had, victimized someone for far too long. All right. So let's step outside of those situations. All right. And before I go on, let me say that I certainly do not advocate violence. But what I'm saying is this. All right. That there are quite a few children that view violence in a positive way because they may come from an environment where that's acceptable. So, what do a lot of kids have access to? They have access to YouTube. They have access to, Facebook and TikTok. And quite often they'll see people fighting, okay? And then they'll think that, oh, this is acceptable behavior. It's not acceptable behavior, all right? It is not. But they see these things. They think that because watching someone on YouTube or TikTok, and it has lots and lots of views, that's favorable. Okay, that's a positive thing. It is not a positive thing. Okay, it certainly is not. All right. So we've talked about what is bullying, why some youth bully, who is at risk for bullying. I want to talk about bullying and trauma. All right, that's so important to know. All right. Bullying and trauma. Why? Because bullying can have lasting impacts on everyone involved. Let me tell you all, I hear quite often stories from adults, okay, that remember and will tell you, oh, I hated middle school, or oh, I hated junior high school, or I hated high school. Why? Because they were bullied in some way, shape, or form, okay? And even if it was a long time ago and they did not refer to it as bullying, that's exactly what it was. And these people are still dealing with the after effects so many years later of bullying, all right? There are studies that show that bullying is considered an adverse childhood experience. The acronym is ACE, an adverse childhood experience. Okay? Adverse childhood experiences are potentially traumatic events that can have negative, lasting effects on a person's development, the way they interact with others, and how they perform in school. Research has shown that children reporting more adverse childhood experiences may be more likely to exhibit bullying behavior. All right, let's get into this. Let's understand trauma first and foremost. All right. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration defines trauma as a result of an event, series of events, or set of circumstances that an individual experiences as physically or emotionally harmful or life-threatening. These experiences can have lasting adverse effects on a person's mental, physical, social, emotional, or spiritual well-being. All right. So those of you that are listening to this podcast, I want you to go back and think about your childhood. Okay. Were there some of these instances where there's this lasting adverse effect, okay, on you, okay, on how you interact with people, okay, your confidence, all right, your emotional state, your physical state, all right? Does that trauma from your childhood have these lasting effects. All right. So childhood traumatic stress occurs when traumatic events overwhelm a child or teenager's ability to cope, such as neglect and psychological, physical, or sexual abuse. Domestic violence or intimate partner violence, community and school violence, of course, including bullying. All right. Then, of course, there are also other childhood traumatic stresses that really don't deal with school, but still, nevertheless, are childhood stresses. So that would include natural disasters. All right. Can you imagine the stress on a child if they've been involved in a flood, okay, or a tornado or an earthquake? All right. Then, of course, there's terrorism, war, and refugee experiences that quite often happen in countries other than in the United States. All right. Then we've got serious accidents, life-threatening illness, or sudden or violent loss of a loved one. Okay. Let's look at that sudden. What happened over the course of the last year and a half? We had COVID-related deaths, and many children experienced the loss of a parent. All right, that's childhood traumatic stress. So now take that along with going to school, back to school now, okay, and having to deal with an individual that now does not want you in their peer group, okay, so they're excluding you, or is physically harming you, or emotionally harming you. No wonder there are so many adults walking around us with problems, okay, because that childhood traumatic stress was not dealt with adequately. All right. So stress has such a major impact on children. That's why it's so important that we give them the care and the concern that they need at an early age. All right. So now we're talking about bullying today on my podcast. And again, thank you all for liking, sharing, and subscribing on my YouTube channel and following me and commenting and sharing on your favorite podcast platform. So we're talking about bullying, and at this particular point, we're talking about trauma. So now let's make the connection between bullying and traumatic stress. All right. So every individual is different, and incidents that traumatize one person may not affect another. We know that. So growing up, if someone called you names or maybe someone pushed you around a little bit, you know, in your adulthood, maybe that doesn't bother you that much. You just accepted it. Hey, that was part of the neighborhood that I grew up in. But see, that doesn't mean it's the same for someone else that grew up in that exact same neighborhood and experienced the same types of incidents that you did. Okay. As stated by the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, children or teens who have been exposed to trauma and violence may be more likely to bully others and be bullied. Some children who experience trauma and bullying may have strong feelings of distress, while other children may appear desensitized. As an example, a study on bullying and post-traumatic stress found that some children may repress their thoughts or feelings about what took place. This can lead to numbness or loss of interest in activities. This study also found that children may experience intrusive thoughts, such as sudden flashbacks of their bullying experience. It is important that caregivers understand how to respond to bullying and are sensitive to possible traumatic stress. Okay? So what helps kids after trauma from bullying? All right, so let's look at this. Parents, teachers, and other trusted adults can help children or teens who experience traumatic stress from bullying. All right. How? By ensuring the child or teen is safe and seeks ways to prevent future bullying experiences. If you are a teacher or a parent or an administrator, it is your responsibility to prevent future bullying experiences. You can't sweep it under the rug. You can't say, oh, well, you know, they're just kids. No, these kids turn into bullying adults, or they turn into bullied adults. Okay. Then what do we have? We have a society of criminals. All right. We have a society of domestic abusers. We have a society of domestic women that have been violently assaulted in a domestic relationship, or men. All right. So we've got to find ways to prevent future bullying experiences. Next, talking through what happened and why to help clear up misconceptions about their role in the traumatic event. Sometimes when kids have been bullying, they feel it's their fault. Okay, well, I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not tall enough, or I'm overweight, or I don't have enough money. No, it's not that. It's not that at all. So another way is that we need to teach stress management and we need to teach stress management and relaxation techniques to help them cope. All right. Again, sometimes children that have been bullied will act out. I'm going to give you an example of that. Okay. There are kids that have been bullied. All right. These are the kids that, are seen as, nerds, or seen as, those kids that wear the strange clothes, or, maybe they wear, dark colored lipstick, or they, may be boys and wear fingernail polish or what have you. Okay. Well, they're not in the in crowd. They're seen as the outsiders. Okay. Not like the rest of us. All right. Well, these are the same ones that come back after being bullied by, for example, jocks or someone else, and they come up and shoot up schools. Okay. Because what are they doing? That anger hasn't been displaced. All right. So what they want to do is they want to come to school and take it out on those people who they perceive, bullied them or actually bullied them. All right. And then even in some instances, those people in positions of authority that could have done something about it, but also ignored them. Okay. That's why it's so important. So important. All right. So how can schools and teachers help? Well, when we talk about trauma, schools can adopt a trauma-informed approach by training teachers and staff skills to handle and recognize traumatic stress or other signs of trauma. All right. These skills allow teachers to help or find other supports and services for students in need. All right. Well, the National Center on Safe Supportive Learning Environments says that there are approaches to create safe and supporting learning environments. Okay, these include educating school staff about trauma and its effects. That's so important. Promoting physical and emotional safety in relationships and the environment. Reducing trauma-related triggers in the school environment. Right? Considering trauma in all assessment and protocol behavior plans. All right. And then finally, ensuring students and families have voice, choice, and empowerment. All right. So what we have to do is when we have children that have been bullied is they feel that they don't have any power. We need to give them that power back. All right. So what we need to do is when they have been bullied and now the bullier, all right, has been known. All right. Well, then the bullied need to be able to confront their bully if that is something that they want to do. All right. Because they need to show that the power imbalance that was there is now not. Okay, that there is now no imbalance of power. So now you've got support from your teachers, you've got support from your administrators. Okay, and the weight of that support is so much heavier, all right, than what the bully has, especially in schools when you have teachers and school staff and administrators and parents involved. All right, you can stop bullying from happening. You can certainly lessen it. Okay, but you can definitely stop bullying from happening. All right. So now I'm going to give you some more examples of bullying just so that you have a really good idea of what takes place. All right. And I do this because, again, some of you all may think that, well, that's just having fun or teasing, Well, there's some teasing, okay, or there's a better definition of teasing. Bullying is so different. All right. So here's some examples of physical bullying. All right. Several children grab a hold of a smaller child's legs and feet to throw him into a trash can. Yes, that does happen. All right. That's an example of physical bullying. All right. How about this one? Tipping a child head first into a toilet. kicking a target as they walk down the hallways, knocking a child's book down as they walk down the hall so that his school papers fly everywhere. How many times have you seen that happen? Ripping up or taking a child's homework assignment so that they cannot complete their schoolwork. Yeah. Destroying artwork or other prized possessions that a child brings home from school. All right. Stealing a child's personal belongings. These are all examples of physical bullying. And so look at that word bullying and look at these things that just happened. All right. So what do we have? Okay. We have these future criminal acts. All right. See, as kids, these aren't considered criminal acts until they reach a certain age where they may be juvenile things. All right. However, destroying artwork. All right. What is that called in everyday life? Vandalism, right? Okay. Stealing a child's personal belongings. That's theft. That's a criminal act. All right. What about kicking a target as they walk down the hallways? That's an assault. All right. So all of these things that we call bullying today when they're kids turn into criminal actions as adults. All right. Here are some examples of verbal bullying. A student has to walk down the hallways to get to class while a group of girls walk behind her, engaging in a discussion, okay, that they intend the victim to overhear about all the ways their target is a worthless person. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute. All right. You're walking down the hallway and someone is constantly talking about you, a group of girls, okay? It can be a group of guys too. How would that make you feel? That's verbal bullying, okay? Or how about this one? A boy is repeatedly called, some gay slur or endures comments of, look out, here comes the, back in the day, they might say homo or something like that, by different students as he passes tables to find a spot to sit in the lunchroom, okay? So there you go. Someone that is calling someone sexual names. Maybe, they're calling them a name of something that they're not even that, maybe calling them gay when they're straight. All right. Those are all forms of verbal bullying. Okay. Here's another one. Coming up with derogatory pet names for the victim. Okay. Stinky, Tweedledum. Okay. And then getting all the other kids to refer to the victim by that insult. All right. We're talking about this constant behavior that's happening in schools that's causing traumatic incidents for these kids, that's impacting their emotional status, that's having a great impact on their academics. All right. So that's physical bullying and verbal bullying. Let's look at gossiping bullying. Okay. Gossip bullying. Here's one. At one high school, every year, the names of what were decided to be the 4 ugliest girls in school were written on a toilet door, with the list updated every year. See, that might seem funny to some people, okay? But what about the impact that has on that child? There are adults that had to endure that kind of stuff, all right? And so now, they are reluctant to go into schools, okay? They may have issues with teachers or with administrators as adults, even though their kids go to school, because they didn't have that trust. They didn't have all of that support. And so all of that trauma is still within them. All right. Here's another one. At a junior high, a list is distributed among students that purportedly outs students in the school with sexually transmitted diseases. All right. See, that's not funny. Certainly not to someone that's in junior high school. And now they've got this, remember that word, stigma about them. All right. Here's another one. A former friend of the victim starts telling everyone she meets that so-and-so is pregnant. Okay. A lie. Just an outright lie. Or here's another one. A boy asks a girl out and she rejects him. So in revenge, he starts telling everyone that she's a slut who slept with him on the first date. Okay. See, now some of you all recognize that because that's something that you heard. That's something that you remember from high school that people would say or that boys would say about girls. All right. Horrible kinds of stuff. All right. How about examples or more examples of more examples of sexual bullying? All right. At one high school, students organized to form the understanding that every Tuesday night was gay bashing night and would make it a sport to harass any student they suspected was gay. That's bullying, folks. Labeling a student as gay. okay, whether they are or not, and then relentlessly insulting them with gay jokes and sexual name calling. That is sexual bullying, okay? Performing mock sex acts against the student, such as coming up behind them and humping their back like a dog, all right? See, those are all crimes, all right, when you become an adult, right? All right, so these are all these kinds of examples of bullying, all right? I am sitting here in my great podcast world, all right? And I'm lucky enough to have my beautiful fiance in the background there, Tanisha, all right? And she sent me this article, all right, that talks about why haters hate, okay? And then there was this Danish writer and thinker named Søren Kierkegaard, and he lived back from 1813 to 1855, all right? And in this article, it talks about something that's really, really profound, all right? And it's really something that back in 1847, when Kierkegaard was 34 years old, all right, he talks about this bullying and trolling and these haters, all right? And so I just want to read a little bit about what he said or what he wrote. He said, "There is a form of envy of which I frequently have seen examples, in which an individual tries to obtain something by bullying." Now, again, he's talking about bullying. He wrote this in 1847. 1847, folks. He's using the word bullying. He goes on to say, "If, for instance, I enter a place where many are gathered, it often happens that one or another right away takes up arms against me by beginning to laugh. Presumably, he feels that he is being a tool of public opinion. But lo and behold, if I then make a casual remark to him, that same person becomes infinitely pliable and obliging. Essentially, it shows that he regards me as something great, maybe even greater than I am. But if he can't be admitted as a participant in my greatness, at least he will laugh at me. But as soon as he becomes a participant, as it were, he brags about my greatness." Kierkegaard goes on to say, this is what comes of living in a petty community. The article goes on to say that it is unlikely that Kierkegaard was aware of what would become known as the Benjamin Franklin effect. The founding father formulated his famous reverse psychology trick for handling haters. And yet he goes on to relay an anecdote that embodies it perfectly. He recounts coming upon 3 young men outside his gate, who upon seeing him began to grin and altogether initiated the whole gamut of insolence. All right, now remember, we're talking about words that are written way back in the 1800s. As he approached them, Kierkegaard noticed that they were smoking cigars and turned to one of them, asking for a light. Now remember, these are the people that are grinning and laughing and being insolent towards him. All right, now when he asked for a light, suddenly the men's attitude took a dramatic U-turn. This seemingly simple exchange had provided precisely that invitation for participation in greatness. Kierkegaard goes on to write, "Instantly, all 3 doffed their hats, and it would seem I had done them a service by asking for a light. Ergo, the same people would be happy to cry bravo for me if I merely addressed a friendly, let alone flattering word to them. As it is, they cry, perish, and are defiant. All it amounts to is play acting. But how invaluably interesting to have one's knowledge of human psychology enriched in this way." All right. Now, 7 years later, unfortunately, 7 years later, just before his untimely death, we're talking about Kierkegaard, he revisits the subject in a sentiment that explains with enduring insight the psychology of haters. Listen to these words. He says, "Showing that they don't care about me, or caring that I should know they don't care about me, still denotes dependence. They show me respect precisely by showing me that they don't respect me." That's Søren Kierkegaard and his whole psychology of bullying and trolling from back in 1847. My name is Jaden Miller. You've been with me on my podcast, Think About It with Jaden Miller. Again, please continue to like, share, and subscribe on my YouTube channel. And then again, please follow, like, comment on your favorite podcast platform. I've been talking about bullying today. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of my podcast. On my next episode, I think I'm going to go a little bit more into adulthood and talk about workplace bullying, because guess what? Even though we become adults, bullying can still happen, and quite often it happens in the workplace. All right. So again, thank you guys for joining me today on my podcast, Think About It with Jaden Miller. I'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Think About It with Jaden Miller. Don't forget to like and subscribe to his YouTube channel, and like and follow on your favorite podcast platform.